some of your other work, especially, the one that everybody wants to talk about. And so I'm definitely not going to leave that out.
Hands down, my favorite project. There was so much talent that it would be impossible for me to look back.
What's the magic into being able to work well with a group like that?
You have to rehearse the hell out of things. I mean, just when you think like it can't improve anymore, you just keep going. I would rehearse it myself when I would come home by myself, just picturing all the guys' moves coming at me.
What was the scariest or most dangerous situation you found yourself in?
I was attached to a car in Suicide Squad. If the driver would have rolled it, I was done.
Doesn't end well unless it ends. You can't just report the fucking obvious.
I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and
Just
run
the
it all back.
motherfucking jump. Just go. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy, and we have a special guest with us today. We are going to be interviewing Richard Ceterone. We're going to dive into the stories behind all the actions. He is one of Hollywood's biggest stuntmen, and when I really dug in and found all the stuff he's done, I was like, holy shit. Like, this is some of the greatest, most iconic characters that we all love. And he's been doubling for people like Ben Affleck. And what I like too about it too is Richard and I aren't far from age. So, I love rooting for us old guys as much as I can. And then I also found out that he's a Steeler fan. And so that makes it even better. Grew up in Pittsburgh as well and just had an incredible career. And we're going to get into all the details of that and find out all the good stuff. Richard, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Well, this is just really cool for me. I like doing this kind of stuff. And I wanted to know enough stuff to have a good interview, but I also like learning on the fly and making it real and making it authentic as well.
Right.
But, the best places to start is always at the beginning. And that's where you were born and raised. Tell me a little bit about, growing up some years ago, right as the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to becoming great and being in that.
Yeah, I really, I'm so fortunate to have grown up in that time in Pittsburgh, because we had season tickets to Three Rivers Stadium from the time it opened to the time they blew it up. So
Wow.
I've seen a lot of football games. I was at the Immaculate Reception, so I've seen a lot of their playoff games. I haven't been to a Super Bowl yet, but saw a lot of football. It was really great. I grew up in a suburban town about 25 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. And really nice place to grow up, really great place to raise a family, and I had a really nice childhood, But as I got older, it's just Pittsburgh didn't really offer exactly what I wanted, so at some point I had to take off.
Now, what kind of sports as a kid did you personally get into? Did you enjoy?
I liked football and basketball. I liked a lot. I did some amateur boxing when I was about 17, 18. I played some hockey, not as much ice hockey, but a lot of like street hockey.
Mhm.
We were really into the kids in my high school. We had a huge street hockey league. It was really cool. So I mostly, as far as high school sports, basketball and football, mostly.
Yeah. Did you ever play on that rink that as you're coming into Pittsburgh, or somebody like me would be coming into Pittsburgh from Ohio and like it's outdoor? And I think it's not ice. I don't think it's like they're, wearing other types of skates.
Yeah, I've heard
Does
they had something out there. That's come along after my time.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Okay.
moved out of Pittsburgh in '87.
Okay.
So I've actually been in Southern California longer than Pittsburgh, even though I grew up there. But its city has changed so much. It's amazing. But I think I know what you're talking about, and that
Okay.
unfortunately wasn't around when I was there. But that would have been cool.
And
Yeah.
you still try to get to some games?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie, my wife, and I, 2 years ago, we went to the Raiders game when the Steelers played the Raiders in Vegas. This year we'll be going to the Chargers game because they're going to play the Chargers out here in Los Angeles. So yeah, I definitely get to the games, and my family still has season tickets, so we can jump on a game there pretty much anytime we want.
Well, you can count us in for the San Diego game or the
nice.
Chargers
That'd
game.
be great.
We say San Diego, but yeah, because we actually were in Vegas for the game last year, and that's when I got COVID, and I spent 4 days in a Vegas hospital. So that wasn't too good, and lost about $2,000 in tickets. I couldn't get them sold fast enough. It was a mess.
No.
But I so wanted to be in that stadium. That looks like such an amazing stadium the Raiders have now in Vegas. But and such a great rivalry that you and I both enjoyed with the Steelers. That's one of the most fun rivalries, in Pittsburgh's history there still too. So
for sure, yeah. They were, especially 70s. They were huge. I mean, you figure the Raiders going to have a few more Super Bowl appearances if not for the Steelers.
I'm sure, and I feel the same way about the Patriots. Right? We could have had a couple more if it wasn't for the Patriots. So
yeah, we were on the wrong end of that rivalry for sure. Yeah.
Everybody was on the wrong end of Tom Brady, That's like being on the wrong end of Jordan. Manning. Yeah, except for Eli Manning. Yes.
He's the only one.
And he rubs it in too.
I know. I love that about him.
Yes. I love telling Peyton fans that, are you even sure that Peyton's even the best Manning?
Right.
One's got 2 Super Bowl wins, so that's really awesome. All right, so you did happen to mention something about the boxing. That seemed to be, something that was important along your journey to doing what you do now, and you've also gotten into other martial arts as well. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, the main reason, movies was a secondary reason why I moved to Southern California. The main reason was Dan Inosanto, who's Bruce Lee's protege when he was alive. And I discovered him, and I was just fascinated because I was always turned off by martial arts because I just didn't know. I never liked the hand structure of martial arts, right? I never liked the reverse punch. It just seemed like it didn't make sense to me. And so I discovered Bruce Lee, and I'm like, here's a martial artist who holds his hands like this, right? He doesn't do the reverse punch. I'm like, oh man, this guy, I like the way he thinks, right? And he believed in fighting with his strong hand forward, which I've always done my whole life. And so I thought I need to investigate this guy. So obviously he had passed away, so I couldn't learn under him. So the second best choice was Dan Inosanto. So that's the main reason I moved to California, because I was just fascinated with that martial art. And so boxing, to go back to your original question, my boxing experience in Pittsburgh helped me tremendously to fit in and just jump in with some of these really great martial artists out here in Southern California. And so I was able to jump into the school right away and just go, and it was, the boxing experience helped me tremendously.
So based on what you said, then when did it happen that you first had the idea of doing stunt work and that might be a path you'd want to go down?
It was something I started thinking vaguely about while I was still in Pittsburgh. I would see things in the movies, and I thought, like, when I would see a real creative fight scene, it would really hype me up. Like, it was something like, I thought, like, well, this would be something amazing to do. But it was kind of in the background, And then once I got out here, and I learned that there were some people that were going to the same school I was that were interested in pursuing the same thing. It started getting more and more, going from something that was just a thought to now this is something I think that I really want to go after. And so it became much more clear, and the path was clearer because I saw, because a lot of this stuff is networking. It took me a long time to realize that, it's, if you have people that can open doors for you, you have to be able to perform. You have to be able to do the job, but having that door open for you is huge. And some people just never get that. So I was lucky enough to be in a position where I could get that. And shortly after I moved out here, I think it really became a goal for me, even though I started thinking about it back in Pittsburgh.
Now, how much of trying to be an actor was part of that influence? Was that at the forefront in the beginning, and then after the stunt work, it kind of became secondary? I mean, you've done quite a bit of acting too, but you're basically best known for, not for the acting work, but for the stunt work, because you've done phenomenal stuff.
100%. Yeah, more stunt work. It's something that I took semi-serious. It's a tough road to hoe, let me tell you. I really respect actors that go after their dreams, because it's really tough to do. Stunt work was a little easier for me. My natural skill set was more developed for stunt work. Now, I did study acting when I moved out here, because I thought, even if I don't ever do any acting, it's going to make me a better performer. So I got out of my comfort zone, because I'm more introverted for sure as a person, right? So I got out of my comfort zone, and I went into some acting classes, and I ended up studying for about 7 years out here at a couple different schools, some really good schools actually. So it was nothing I really took real seriously. Like, I didn't really go after, I didn't grab an agent and go after all these auditions and stuff, but I always thought, like, I can do it. If a job comes up that it'll get me stunt work, and they need an actor as well, stunt acting job. So I thought, yeah, I'll make myself, more valuable and study the acting.
Yeah, put that at the top of your resume. 2 for 1 with me.
Right. You know
Good
what?
idea.
Actually, it's got me quite a number of jobs. For
Yeah,
sure.
that's smart. That's smart as hell. That's great. So, like, what was your first big stunt work? Was it the Three Ninjas, or was that?
Yeah, that was my first big break. That was the job that got me into the union, into SAG,
Mhm.
right? Screen Actors Guild. So that was a big one for me, because that was the one that kind of, like, knocked the door open for me to, because sometimes getting your SAG card is, one of the toughest parts of your journey. But yeah, I was able to do that with that job, and so that was my first union job. So that was a big. It wasn't, it wasn't a huge fight or anything like that, or wasn't a huge stunt or anything like that. But it had some moments that, like I was telling Jamie the other day, the stunt coordinator didn't know me from anyone, but for some reason, like, he was a legendary stunt coordinator too, and he really trusted me. So one of the things I needed to do in the movie was, they needed someone that could operate a butterfly knife, right? A balisong. You've seen them, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right. So at that time, there was really no stunt people known that could do this, could operate this thing, which is hilarious, because now there are tons of guys that can do it, right? But when I first got into the stunts, they were mostly cowboys, and they would call us the karate guys. Like, you're one of those karate guys, huh? That was our name, the karate guys, right? So it got back to this coordinator that I could do this. So this was so early on in this whole thing with stunt props and stuff of something like this, because they had no prop. So I had to use one of my real knives. So I filed down the point, and I filed down the edge, but it was still a metal,
Right.
So the prop guys looking at my knife were getting ready to shoot the scene with this little kid, because the ninja kids were little kids, right? And I had trained this kid to use the knife and stuff, because he's going to take it off of me and use it against me. But I had to, like, thrust at him and stuff, right? So the prop guy's looking at this knife. He's like, this isn't a safe prop. He goes, I don't think you should do this. And the stunt coordinator goes, well, I think it's safe in Richard's hands. So right there, it's like,
Wow.
okay, this is my first big job.
Yeah, yeah.
So it turned out great, and so it was pretty crazy, though. I mean, you never see that happen now.
No, especially
but,
after the whole Alec Baldwin situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, they're gonna be very protective of that now. That's not a
For sure.
that's not a thing. And
Yeah.
so what was the one job that you felt like was the turning point where you were, that I guess I would probably phrase it as established, and that you knew this was going to be some longevity, and now that you're a go-to
Yeah.
guy, you're maybe not searching for work as much as people are also searching you out.
And that's the thing with stunts, because we'll get agents sometimes for commercials and stuff, but most of us don't have an agent. Most of us get our work on our reputation. So that's a great question, and that's very important in stunts. And I would say it was year 2000, Ghost of Mars.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one, I think, that, as you said, like, broke the door open, and now there's going to be people looking to hire me and use me in their projects. I played like the lead bad guy. Just it was it's kind of like almost like a zombie type character, but he was like a Martian,
Mm-hmm.
and they inhabited the bodies of these miners, these humans that were miners, and so John Carpenter movie. So I got to meet him and work with him, and that was really cool. So I would say it would be that one for sure. Yeah, that was the one that I think really started everything for me.
And I don't want to steer too off topic, but I do. I do that sometimes when things pop into my head. But have you done any filming or much work outside of the United States, or has
hmm
most of it been here?
Yeah, there few jobs, probably about a dozen jobs all in all outside of the United States. I worked in the Philippines. I worked in Canada, in every major city: Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal. I worked in London. I worked in Budapest, Hungary. I've probably been to London about 3 or 4 times for a job. I think it
Yeah.
is. But so yeah, that's about the extent of it.
And I bring that up because of just, something that recently happened with Trump putting on the tariffs on movies being made outside of the US, and
hmm
it seems like a pretty good thing. Do you think, I mean, Hollywood in general isn't a big fan of conservatives, and they sure the hell in general don't like Trump, but
No,
from a
no,
business perspective, you
yeah.
know, is that a move going to be helpful, especially after the recovery of, the strike and everything like that? Not everybody's back to work just because that strike is over.
True, very true. Yeah, it's impacted quite a few productions. That really did, and COVID really did. They're still kind of recovering from
Hmm.
COVID. But I think, in answer to your question, I think it will, and I wish somebody would have done it, years ago, because it's just getting worse and worse every year. Hollywood really isn't Hollywood anymore. I don't know where Hollywood is. Maybe London, is Hollywood now. I don't know, because so much is going out of the country. It's insane. So I think it's something that I think it will be effective eventually. It might take about a year, but I think it will be effective. And I think it was a great idea and absolutely worth trying. You know, we're
Right.
just losing too much.
And
'Cause
it
I
does.
know some really good performers and people out there that just haven't really worked much at all this year. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah.
Well, I know that, especially for the writers, it's tough, and, they're going to have to make another adjustment because of the whole AI. I mean,
hmm
AI is going to change everything, and certainly
It will.
is making a difference there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that all that business is going to come back to Hollywood. I mean, here in the United States, a lot of stuff is done. Georgia has become a pretty big hotbed for doing work too, and making movies and
Yeah,
shows,
that
and that could.
Georgia dried up a little bit though. Georgia has been huge for about the last 10 years, really big, and they're starting to dry up a little bit from what I've heard,
Mhm.
because so much is going out of the country. But they
Yeah.
probably, you're right in the fact that they probably have been the busiest spot in the U.S. for probably the last 10, 12
Yeah,
years.
and this will be good for them. And if, cost wise, their costs were a little bit better, maybe not the same as, the cost cutting they were trying to achieve in Europe. And so
hmm
hopefully that's, good for everybody. It's just going to be funny to watch him support this, because I swear to God, if he came out with a cure for cancer, all of a sudden they would be against the cure for cancer. It just
For
seems
sure,
crazy. So
they would find something to complain about for
definitely.
sure.
So you're listening to the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy, and this fucking guy needs you to do the same thing we ask you each and every episode, is to hit that subscribe button, share the show with somebody, hit a like, do what you can to help us grow as we continue to try to improve here and bring you good content, bring you good guests. And, we're seeing some really nice things happening, and you get to be a part of it too. And also, let me throw this out there. If you know somebody, you're friends with somebody that you think I might want to interview, hit me up. If you can arrange it, let's do it. Be part of the show, be part of the progress, be part of the growth. Thank you very much. God bless. Some of your other work, especially, the one that everybody wants to talk about, and so I'm definitely not going to leave that out, and that's certainly Batman. And it seems the one scene that will probably, I don't know if you consider, do you consider the warehouse scene your biggest scene that most people would be aware of?
Yeah, probably. It's actually, I mean, that's my favorite job, hands down, because I've loved Batman since I was a kid. And it's been my goal and dream to portray Batman in a movie. So hands down, my favorite project. But my favorite fight is actually a fight from Watchmen.
Oh,
But that is, I would say you're right. That's probably the most popular fight that I've done. I would say, yeah. And we had amazing crew together for that scene. That warehouse scene there was so much talent there, that it would be impossible for me to look bad. Because the guys I was fighting were just so good. They're so good performers and just amazing, talented people, and a lot of them friends of mine. So that was a great job from beginning to end. I just, during that time, that was about a 9 month job, and during that time, I just considered myself having the best job in the world.
I bet.
Like it doesn't get any better than this for me, personally. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, it's as good as just about as being Batman. I mean, like, just to get to do that, and then to do it for, one of the top actors that people love to follow as well. Just really cool stuff. So, like, what is it like? What's the dynamic like with you and other stuntmen in that? Like, you got to have I mean, in a short period of time, almost like a team, a football team, like how you come up with a championship caliber football team. How do you guys bring that together? Do you hang out a little bit? What's the magic into being able to work well with a group like that?
Well, I think it's a number of things. I think working with people that you're familiar with, that you've built up a history with. Like a good offensive line, they don't gel in one season, maybe not even two
Right.
seasons. Those guys that are together for 3, 4, 5 seasons, they're like, that's when they really gel. And I think it's the same thing with what we do. If you get people together that are used to working with one another, it just flows so easily. It's really amazing to see, because the other big thing is you put in the time, you put in the rehearsal time. You have to rehearse the hell out of things. I mean, just when you think like it can't improve anymore, you just keep going. That warehouse fight, we started rehearsing 2 months before we shot it. And we put a lot of time into that. And I would rehearse it myself when I would come home, by myself, just picturing all the guys' moves coming at me. So I think getting guys together that have a familiarity with one another, putting the time in, a lot of rehearsal time, getting the right people when you put those guys together.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why in stunts, a lot of the guys work together fairly often on projects. Like that team that Dave and Carl, who's the stunt coordinator, that he put together, we've all worked with one another, been working with one another for years by the time we met on that show. So having a familiarity with the team you're putting together, and having the talent, having the guys that are, really talented people. I mean, that just makes everything so much easier. And good attitudes too. In the film industry, and you'll notice this with big name actors sometimes. Sometimes you ever notice, like you think about it, you're like, hey, I haven't seen that guy in a movie in a while. He's a huge name. It's because people don't want to work with him probably. So getting good people together, that you're going to be able to work with and are going to, be a team player, and everybody come together and for a common goal. That's huge.
Yeah, as a movie fan, we probably take it for granted. We don't even think about it. We think about the cast, the acting cast, but there's also, as you've just shared with us, a lot of work that's going to go together to putting together the stuntman crew. and knowing and interviewing and, who's worked together, who's not. And especially when you get to such a huge project like that and how important a scene like that is for that movie. I mean, when you're putting that kind of money into a movie, the expectations are very high and they want to get that money back. And Hollywood isn't always good at that, but yeah, they definitely want to do that the best they can. That's just so cool. I mean, I can just say just not something I really thought about trying to have people coordinated and how much they've worked together in the past. That's super important.
Yeah, trust is a big thing in stunts, because our main goal is to not only put together a good product, but to keep it safe. So trusting the person you're with. I just came back from Pittsburgh. I was working in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, and I did a fight with my buddy. It's not a hard fight, but it was it was enough that if you're sloppy, you could hurt each other, And he's like, and I've known him for 25 years. And he's like, it is so good to fight with someone that you can trust, because we didn't touch each other, but it was a really cool, hard fight, So yeah, trust issues or trust within the stunt community is huge because we just want to keep everybody safe. That's our main goal.
Oh, sure. What does it take? What's the formula? Because you've gotten and you've done some of the, do they call it fight choreography or I don't know what the term is, but what does it take to make what are the elements of a good fight scene with your experience that you think really makes the fight worthwhile for people to watch, that they're gonna be like, that was really cool?
I think it has to add something to the story. It has to help motivate the story, right? I think if you just put this bunch of action together that may look cool but isn't really necessary in the scene or in the story, it's not as enjoyable. You can enjoy it for what it is, but in the whole realm of the movie, the idea is to put something together that helps the movie flow, helps promote the rest of whatever the storyline is at that point. I mean, you have to do that for sure. And the other thing is you have to be creative. Everything has been done, right? I mean, it's all been done before, but the thing to do is to put things together that you really haven't seen a whole lot. You know what I mean? Like whenever I'm doing it, I try to put something together that just puts different aspects of fighting together. Sometimes when you see a fight, it just stays at hand range, and then maybe sometimes it's hand range and kicking range, So I try to put different ranges of fight. Like I try to throw a grappling range in there and break back out the hand range, or they go into like a trapping range, just to throw different aspects of it together so that the audience is seeing something that they haven't necessarily seen in that type of structure. Because everybody's seen a punch, right? Everybody's seen a kick, but it's how you structure things, how you put it together, and how you use the environment around you as well. Sometimes people forget about that. Like when we're putting a scene together, we put boxes up and things up to show like this is over here and this is over here. How could we use the environment to help motivate this fight scene? So I think it's a lot of it is just having the experience of doing it a lot. Knowing what audiences like, paying attention to what audiences like, how are some fights reviewed by the public. It's interesting because we put so much time and effort into that warehouse scene that you brought up, that a really popular Batman game was called Arkham. And there was a guy on social media that was just talking about this. And he said, yeah, they obviously took that fight from Arkham. And we didn't. We didn't even, I know video games because I play video games, but I never even played Arkham, So it looked a lot like something from Arkham. And I guarantee none of the guys on the team do anything about it. It just so happens that the way we put it together, it's Batman. We wanted to put something together that Batman would do. We did research into it. Like I still have tons of graphic novels and stuff, Batman. So I studied all that stuff. I studied his movement, from the animated movies. So I think it's putting a lot of research and time into it. Is a big part of it too.
That's interesting. So you're thinking about this as what would Batman do? What about the actor that's playing Batman and some of, their characteristics and moves so that the audience is going to feel like that's the person doing the fight scene when in fact it's you? How do you mix?
That's important. And it really depends on the project and how much you're doubling the actor. Luckily for me, Ben was really cool with that stuff. He's like, you do what you do. Like I do my thing, and then you do what you do. And like, he was more concerned about it looking good. So he was like, if I have to match you in some things, don't worry about it. I go, well, of course I'm going to try to walk like you in certain scenes when I'm walking.
Exactly.
Because it makes sense. But he said, as far as the fighting, he goes, you do what you do. And then if I come in for an insert or something, I'll do it just like you did it, or as close to you as I possibly can. So a lot of it has to do with the actor and his attitude towards how he wants it done. Now, sometimes you deal with somebody that has a bigger ego, they can't let that go. And so now they want to do mostly everything. And if and sometimes they're like, well, I want you to do this just like I did it. And it's like, okay, whatever's going to be best for the project. And in the end, it really does come down to the coordinator, what he wants. And sometimes they'll just, have the actor just do what they're going to do. And then if we have to come in and take a fall or something, we'll do it as close to them as we can, and we'll just do our thing. But with Ben, he was very cool about it. And he let me do what I needed to do and how I needed to do it. And so I was really lucky. I was in a perfect storm, Troy. I'm telling you, man. I was working with a director that, is a friend of mine. I've worked all his projects on, and he was like, yeah, no, he got a mask on. It's Rich. He has a mask on. He can have Rich do it. Not all directors are like that. Some directors that did some of these Batman movies, they just want the actor to do it. They don't care if he has a mask on. They want the actor to do it. They want to make sure that if you get a close-up on this guy or whatever, he's moving around, they can see that it's definitely this guy. There's no doubt about it. The director I worked with really wasn't concerned about that. I had a stunt coordinator that, is a good friend of mine that opened the door for me to get the character, right? Because I had to audition for it. Had to audition twice for it because I'm old, right? And he even told me, he's my best friend, one of my best friends. But he's like, dude, I can't just hand this to you. We gotta look at people like half your age. You're 54. So I was like, I completely. He goes, if it was 10 years ago, I wouldn't even think about it. Just give it to you. I completely understand, because he's been my training partner since I moved here. He's a martial artist as well.
Okay.
And he's like, but I had to audition twice for it. So, I got it.
You
I
earned
still
it.
had a little leak in the tank, I guess. so I got it. But I was in a perfect storm, Troy, honestly. Everything just came together perfectly to get that job and to have a chance to really, show what I believe Batman is and how he should fight. So I got really lucky.
Well, just listening to your passion for it, that's just that I think means a lot. And I think people are going to really take to listening to. That's just fantastic. What about, obviously you've been in some pretty dangerous situations as well. What was the scariest or most dangerous situation you found yourself in, and how did that play out?
Wow. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because you look back on it and you go, yeah, they're dangerous situations. But at the time, I can't speak for everyone, but with me, I'm concentrating so much on what I have to do. And one thing, one of my qualities that I like about myself is that I have really good focus. Like when I'm doing something, I'm just laser in on it. So I never really thought about it as being scary. But when you look back afterwards, you're like, oh yeah, that could have been really bad. I mean, I did like a full burn for Ghost of Mars where my whole body was lit on fire. That can be a little uncomfortable. I've done like falls like 100 feet out a window for Lethal Weapon, out of a glass window. I was attached to a car in Suicide Squad that was flying around the city, going around these bends. And I mean, if the driver would have rolled it, I was done, because I'm attached to the car. I can't jump off. I'm gonna get, yeah. Did you have one?
The helicopter in
Oh, that one just made me sick. Jamie just brought up the helicopter, and I doubled Ben in a movie, and it's a helicopter crash, and we had it on a gimbal. So the thing was spinning.
Oh, wow.
And so I get motion sickness, right? So after about the 8th take, I was like, oh, I was just like useless the rest of the day. So she remembered that. I wasn't so much dangerous. It just made me sick. But yeah, stuff like that. There's been things where I've done descenders, if the line breaks, you're like 50, 60, 80, 100 feet up, you're just, if that line snapped, you're done,
Right.
Yeah, it's mostly, I think that's mostly been it.
What about what's the worst injury you sustained, doing your job?
Knock on wood, nothing major. I had some broken bones, dislocated a rib, broke a rib in my back, broke a bone in my foot, broke a bone in my hand. But nothing like life-threatening. It's really, with me, because I've been doing it for over 30 years, it's an accumulation. Like the spine is not happy right now, So I just had an MRI last week and just got the results. I'm going to go over it with my guy, but it's not good. So I'll probably look into the stem cells.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about that, I know, but yeah. So it's mostly accumulation of things.
Because it's just amazing that what the work that you've done and that you're still doing. You have to be considered now on every set you go on. You're the OG. You're the original gangster of stunts.
Yeah,
they have to give you.
It's a weird position to be in. Yeah. It really is. Because I do remember when I was one of the young guys on set. It doesn't seem like that long ago, but yeah, I guess I kind of am. Yeah. So. We'll see. I'll keep doing it till the wheels fall off, probably, but we'll see.
So, back maybe 7, 8 years ago, when you first met Stan Lee, what was that like, and how has that played a role and affected your career?
Well, I've been a huge comic book fan since a kid. Like I said, Batman was my favorite, but I also loved all the Marvel comic books. I just love superheroes in general. And Stan Lee had a huge impact on me. No doubt. And I got to meet him because I was one of the Iron Man doubles in the first Iron Man movie, which was a movie that kind of saved Marvel. Marvel was bankrupt. They were going to go under, and that movie was like their last hope. So it was really cool to be a part of that. And I really just enjoyed just listening to the guy talk. The guy was just so passionate about his characters, and it just made everybody on set be passionate about the people they were doubling, all the stunt performers. He just had so much of an impact on me as a kid that I don't know for sure if I would have actually made the move to California to do stunts if not for somebody like him. Because he did, when I was a kid, I just wanted to be a superhero. And I thought, well, the closest to that is, I guess, the movies, So huge impact for sure.
And then you do the hard work on top of it. You do the hard work of the superhero.
It's the fun stuff.
Well, you have to enjoy it. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I know I wouldn't want to just do the talking. I want to do everything. I want to do the action. I want to do the hard stuff. So, yeah.
I bet that's just really cool. What do you have coming up that you're still very active, still doing a lot of work. What's coming up that you can talk about?
Well, last year I did a Disney project. I really can't talk a lot about it. It's, if you look it up online, Disney projects that are coming out in 2026, you can find it easily. I think it's going to be one of the bigger films of the year next year. So I worked on that last year for most of the year. That was really cool. But honestly, Troy, I'm semi-retired now. I'm 63. So I'm at a point where I really just want to work with my friends. Like the guy in Pittsburgh is a friend of mine I hadn't seen in a while. It was really cool to reconnect with him. But it's more about experiences now. When you're younger, you're chasing chasing the money a little bit because you want to,
Sure.
set yourself up to take care of yourself or when you retire. So you're chasing the money a little bit, although that's never been the most important thing in my life ever. But the experiences and, just having the fun of it and just making a name for yourself. But at this point in my career, I'm slowed down considerably. Like I don't take every job that comes around, and the phone doesn't ring as much as it once did. That's just a reality of being 63 and being a stunt performer. I probably will never double a number one actor ever again because I just don't have not the endurance. I still actually have pretty good endurance, but the my body able to take like a beating, like fly into a table and hit the wall. Okay, that's the first thing. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. I could get through the day doing that, but what am I going to feel like the next morning? Am I going to be able to get out of bed? I don't know. So I just don't have that durability that I once had. So that's just a reality of my age. But I still do intend on performing, and I will always perform with my buddies, people that I enjoy working with. If they call and they need me, for sure. So besides the project I did last year that's coming out in 2026, nothing on the horizon specifically. We'll just have to see what pops up. I don't really actively search for things. If somebody calls and has something, I actually started collecting my pension last year from the Screen Actors Guild. So, Jamie and I got married. So, I just want to spend a lot of time with her. And so, yeah, it's, I'm just going to take it as it comes, really.
So with all this that you've done, throughout your career, at what point did you realize that, health, fitness, your nutrition, that you needed to maybe get that a little bit more on point, and what role has that played as your career progressed? Tell me a little bit about that journey.
Pretty much immediately, to be honest with you. And I've always been your body is a temple guy, never done drugs. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. Hardly ever drink alcohol, every now and then, but hardly ever. And I realized working out was really important because I'm not a stocky guy. I'm 6'3", between 195 and 200 pounds. And the heaviest I've ever been is 210. So pretty much immediately, I knew I had to do that and stay in shape. And then it's just about finding different ways to keep your body in shape, and you do things in a functional way where you're not just doing static exercises, where you're doing exercises that are going to help you functionally be a better athlete. So it's about meeting other people in stunts that have training methods that you can incorporate. So a lot of that like checking out what other people do, going to different gyms and seeing what they do, and just getting different workouts. That stuff is huge. And thankfully, it's always been on my mind from the beginning. It's not like I came out here and was in lousy shape and then I had to play catch up. It's always been, I've been an athlete, most of my life. So it's always been really important to me. And then as I've gotten older, Troy, I actually work out more now than I did when I don't know about you. You might do the same thing, but
I work out 6 days a week.
Yeah. It's like I work out more now than in my 20s and 30s. I can't lift as heavy a weight, but I work out 5 days a week and I do some pretty good workouts. And then, still do a little bit of martial arts here and there to stay as sharp as I can. But yeah, almost immediately, I really was on top of that. And the diet stuff came a little later, though. You had mentioned how, when did you realize that diet's really important? That came a little later, and I think maybe it did for a lot of people because we know so much more about it now than we did 20, 30 years ago.
For sure.
It's amazing how much better, you think about how much better of an athlete you could have been back then if you know the stuff, now. But that has come along, and that's super, super important. So yeah, it's
do you have a particular diet you follow, or do you or whatever you put together? What's kind of your focus? Because for me, my major focus is pretty much protein, and then I build everything else around that, and obviously whole foods as much as I can. I'm not one of those people that's capable of getting everything I need from whole foods, so then I do a little supplementation in there. in there as
Yeah.
well. But what's your focus? What do you try
Focus
to
is the
do?
same as yours, protein. And then very, very little sugar. Very little. I try
Right.
to stay away from as much sugar as I can. And as far as carbs go, normally not a lot of carbs. I'm real careful how much carbs I have, depending on the job. If it's a job where I have some tough, long fight scenes, but I have to be ripped, then I have to go about it in a different way. Then I'm low on carbs the entire time up to like maybe the day before, 2 days before I'm doing a fight scene. Then I can
Mhm.
load up a little more on carbs because I've already been there where I've gone into fights like really ripped, right? But I'm like dying, after like 15 minutes of fighting, I'm like dying, and they're feeding me sodas and hot dogs and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, because I have to, I have to be ripped for the role, but that means I haven't been having carbs, so, but, like you, protein's my emphasis, just good fats, and carbs depending on the job, but never a lot of sugar, never.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. That's something that can work for anybody, but I think it's good for people to hear that, just regular folks out there just getting through life, have a factory job or whatever, that how important that is just throughout life, just to, or whenever they start, just getting started and having a good diet, and how much that can make a big difference. And for you, it was your job. It was that important. I
Yeah,
mean, it's hard to be good at what you do and not have that be a focus.
I think so. And you mentioned people, um, factory workers or stuff like that. And I think about that sometimes where like people that have jobs where you don't have a lot of time to work out. Because I've
Right.
been there, you don't. And then because I'm one of those people where I'm a perfectionist, I'm thinking, well, if I don't have time to do this awesome workout that I love to do and it just gets me in such great shape, I shouldn't. Why even do anything? But I over the years I've really changed that philosophy. I think just take 2 minutes and do something. Like these Tabata
Mhm.
timers, right? You ever do the Tabata stuff?
Mm-mm.
Do a Tabata workout. It's like,
Okay.
what is it, like 9 minutes? And it's a great, if you do a Tabata push up workout, it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's a phenomenal workout. So I would encourage people anytime you could squeeze something in there, it's gonna improve the quality of your life and you'll have a longer life. It just does, working your heart like that. It's going to be better for you. So I would get it in there anytime I can.
That sounds great. And I wanted people to understand that and hear a little bit about that and what you do. Um, Couple final questions, a little fun, lighthearted. Uh, for Is there a character that you haven't doubled for that if you got a chance to, you would jump on it?
Oh man, that's a tough question because I know the answer immediately when you were describing it, and I had a chance to do, I had a chance to do it because I'm kind of short for the character. They're usually closer to like 6'9", 7 foot. But I did have a chance to do it one time, but I was working on another movie and I had to pass it up. But it's a Predator. I've always just thought that is like the coolest. I don't know if you call creature monster character out there. I
Uh-huh.
just think they are so cool. So if I had a chance to do one again at my age, I don't know if I could pull it off. That's a tough gig, but I think I would give it a shot. Yeah, yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I love that character.
That's awesome. And I wanted you to share a story with us. Jamie was telling me the story, and I don't think you were in on that conversation, but you were doubling for Ben Affleck, and you got a little injured, and you're carrying a famous actress, and you did all this hard work, and then he got the good ending. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, that was Suicide Squad. And I can't remember her name, but
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie. Thanks, honey. So yeah, so I was going back and forth between Suicide Squad and another movie where I was doubling Ben, and I John Bernthal got a little great guy and a good fighter, does action pretty well. Just got a little hyped up, and I threw me on a table and I dislocated. I hit wrong. I've been hitting perfectly, but he over rotated me a little bit, and I spiked my shoulder. I dislocated my shoulder. So a few days later, I got to fly out to Toronto. And, I'm just trying to nurse it and baby it, and it's like, oh, you got to carry Margot Robbie to the Batmobile. So I'm like, oh, man. So it was brutal. It was about 40 feet, I guess, but it was not easy. So I carry her to the Batmobile, lay her down, right? And then they go, cut. And then Ben walks in. He goes, I'll take it from here, and taps me on the shoulder. And then he gives her mouth to mouth. Right?
I love the story, because hearing Jamie tell it, like, to have your wife disappointed that you didn't get to kiss her, that just cracked me up. I love it.
That was before we met too, I might add.
Yeah, it's probably easier for her to say regarding that too than. Well, since we're at about the end, and I do want to include a little Pittsburgh stuff again here at the end, since we're both Steeler fans. Just what your thoughts are on our quarterback situation. I don't know what you think of Mason Rudolph, but I've seen that movie before, and he's had opportunities to try to take that job, and it hasn't worked out. So I'm not really excited about that, and I'm sure not at this point excited about Aaron Rodgers at this point. He's dicking around too much. And like, that's not how it works, dude. We're a good organization. We don't need you. And I really thought that in this draft that the quarterbacks really got branded in a shitty way, that there wasn't that this wasn't a good quarterback class. And I really think there's some better quarterbacks that, like Will Howard and obviously Sanders too, that were taken later, that people are 5 years from now, 3 years from now, people are going to be surprised. You know what? We didn't do a good job evaluating this class. And, Will Howard, I think I'd prefer to take whatever the season gives us and put the kid in, We have to wait for what? Mason Rudolph to lose 3 in a row, then try to save the season, and then we're back at 500, and we didn't have a losing season again. What do you thought with the state of our Steelers? Oh, and letting George Pickens go. I mean, we're in the same spot we were last year. We have a good number one, and we got nothing else.
Yep. Jamie can tell you that's exactly what I said when I heard about it. I agree with you. I actually like Will Howard, because the kid has something that it's intangible, that you really can't measure, put down in paper. He's a winner.
Yes.
Wherever he goes, he wins, and there's something about quarterbacks like that. Montana was like that. Remember when Montana came out of Notre Dame, he wasn't touted as this amazing athlete with a cannon arm. We know the Tom Brady story, same thing. But Howard's smart, and he's a winner, and I really like that. So I have high hopes for him. The one reason why I would be okay with Aaron Rodgers coming onto the team is because if he's willing to mentor him, that's super valuable experience, and that's really the only reason. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has much left in the tank, and I agree with you about Mason Rudolph. He's a good backup. I think he can come in and win a game or two for you in a short range scenario, but I think long range, I don't think that's your answer. So yeah, I would agree. And Tomlin has had a bunch of mediocre seasons where he just manages to do enough that we get these 20th place draft pick, 21st, 19th, 23rd. And I actually would have been okay with a lousy season in there somewhere where we could have been in a position to have a top 5 or top 10 pick. Because what good is all these mediocre seasons where we didn't do anything anyway? We weren't really a serious playoff contender. It would have been fine with me if he had had a losing season here or there, so we could have got some top-notch talent at that position. Yeah, and the same thing you said, the Pickens thing, that just doesn't make sense. I mean, there's something behind closed doors that we don't know about. I don't know. I want to try to give him the benefit of the doubt, but you're 100% right. We are in the same position now that we were last year. And if I'm a defensive coordinator, I double DK Metcalf all day long.
Exactly.
So yeah, they frustrate me sometimes. I like Mike Tomlin. I think he's a really cool guy, and I think that's
Mhm.
why he still has his job. I think it's hard to not like the person. He's a
Yeah.
cool person,
Yeah.
but I think he should have been gone 2 seasons ago. I just do.
Yeah.
I think I don't think he's. They go, well, he doesn't have the players. Well, that's part of his mistakes too, because he has every bit as
Mhm.
much pull in that draft room as Kahn or Colbert did,
Right.
probably more. I read it was his decision to cut Pickens. It wasn't Kahn and it wasn't Rooney. So I think you got to hold the guy responsible as much as people like him. I just don't know I don't know if he can build a Super Bowl team. His Super
Yeah.
Bowl win came with Cowher's team.
Yeah. And I hold him responsible for us having, pretty much not great offensive coordinators and then, changing offensive coordinators. I mean, that's hard on anybody. And I mean, even Hall of Fame quarterbacks like Ben had to put up with that for a while. And it's just hard. And Tomlin's responsible for that. And that's where, our weakness has been. And, but the overall draft, I thought, we did really good. I think our picks were really good. Although I don't know how familiar you are with Cam Scatterbo, but I love that kid. I thought he would have been an amazing Pittsburgh Steeler, that he's going to wow people and he's going to do some shit for the New York Giants that people are going to be like, we really didn't do this right on him either. Because I watched him in person. And the other ones that they thought were great, and he put Arizona State on his back, and I believe that they really got screwed in that Texas game. But the kid ran for a touchdown, caught a touchdown, and threw a touchdown, and was puking on the field. I mean, if that's not tough, I don't know what toughness is, but yeah, we'll have to see. We're still, like we said, in that position where we still need another wide receiver, and it just has to be, butting heads. And I get that part of it, but go get somebody else. I don't want to, all we heard about that was for the whole season that, we were looking or talking and nothing happened. And I don't want to do that again. I don't want to waste TJ Watt. That's what I don't want to,
And that's what you're 100% right about Tomlin. His poor choices for coordinators.
Yeah.
I didn't like Butler either. I thought Butler put Watt in coverage way too much. Like, I know the 3-4 defense, the edge rushers are responsible for coverage every now and then, but he put him in coverage way too often. That guy doesn't get paid to be in coverage. He gets paid to rush the quarterback.
Right.
And the Canada hire, the Finkner hire, you look at Canada's history in college football. He jumped from college to college every season. It seemed he was at a different college.
Yep.
It's just really poor choices. And as you made note of, while this is all going on and he's trying these young or inexperienced offensive coordinators, TJ Watt and Cam Hayward are aging.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're getting older and older. And even Arthur Smith, Arthur Smith's the most experienced guy that we've had at the position, but he only did it for 2 seasons before he became the head coach of the Falcons.
Right.
So he doesn't, and he made his bones on the back of Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, I'm willing to give the guy a chance. He's the best guy we've had in there in years, but I'm not completely sold on him. It seems like if you look at his statistics when he was with the Titans, he seems to use one receiver. Like, one receiver has great stats, and the other guys are like, and it's like, I don't know. So maybe that's why they felt Pickens, they could get rid of Pickens. I don't know. I just have a lot of questions. I want to see what he does this year, but he's definitely the best guy we've had so far in a number of years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I have high hopes to a certain extent. I always try to think positive going into the season, but I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough year, maybe.
Well, I'm looking forward to meeting you guys, or meeting you in person sometime in the near future. Going to a football game as well. You both are welcome to come here anytime. We do have season tickets this year for the Cardinals, just because we love football. I mean,
Yeah.
well, if the Steelers are playing at the same time, we'll have I have it on my YouTube, so I'll have it on my phone. We've done that too, so
Right.
we just love football, and yeah, that'll be good. But yeah, you'd certainly both welcome to come here, and I appreciate
Thank you.
with that you just given my little small podcast the opportunity to interview you as well. It means a lot to us. It really does.
Oh,
I'm over here
my pleasure.
grinding.
Anytime, Troy. Really, it's my pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you for watching the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life.